Hey, Shadab, good seeing you again.
Hello, Jamie.
Hopefully you don't have weather whiplash. We went from 86, what was it, maybe like 2 days ago, down to 30, 36 and snow within a short period of time. So it's been a little crazy weather-wise for sure.
Quick glance into spring, and then we're back to the winter.
That's a good way of saying it. And speaking of whiplash, it certainly is whiplash in AI. Like we always say, there's never a dull moment. We have some interesting stories for everyone today as well.
Yeah, starting with what are the AI layoffs anyway? I've been scratching my head on this, Jamie, and I want to talk about a few things. What is going on?
Yeah, and we'll talk about some ways that big tech is supporting Anthropic, as well as some new news from Microsoft on the ways that they're enabling chat to take action through Cowork.
And big tech's surprising support of Anthropic, but also holdout from Meta.
Yep, and again, we'll hit some of the latest moves from Adobe, Netflix, Perplexity, as well as then some things from OpenAI in relation to Sora too. So all that plus a little bit on medical AI study that shows certainly where these systems can go wrong. So all that and more. Stay tuned, and we'll get into today's or this week's topics.
Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files podcast. You're looking to stay up to date on the AI. This is the podcast for you. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm the director of AI at Microsoft, and I'm your co-host.
Hello, everybody. Jaime Basilico, as you know already. I'm the other co-host here for the AI Files. My day job is a data and AI technical specialist and architect. And as a reminder, please note this is not an official Microsoft channel, so the views and opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not represent the views of Microsoft. Great. So I guess I don't think we can get into any week where we don't hear something about layoffs and the ways that AI is impacting the job market. So what do you have for us this week around AI layoffs?
Yeah, so this week we have a news from Atlassian. Atlassian is a company that makes, Jira. So they have some famous products. They are now cutting around 10% of its workforce as it embraces the future of artificial intelligence. Now, here is the thing. And just like any other company, they had a stellar result. Last quarter, their revenue growth accelerated to 25% and more. RPO growth was 40% plus, 600 plus $1 million annual revenue customers, right? So, all great things. But, there's still a layoff. So, what is going on? So, here's one of the things that I don't understand, Jamie. The companies keep saying that, oh, we overhired during the COVID. Okay, but you would have already caught up based on so much growth that you have had. Like you're growing like in double digits. Even if you overhired, that overhiring would only remain for maybe a few quarters at that time, but it would have caught up. That overhiring cannot continue because you're not exactly proportionately or not exactly one to one, but rather in some proportion you should also grow your headcounts if you are growing your revenue or you're doubling up. That's not happening. So I don't buy this overhiring argument, to be honest, right? That's a thing of the past. Secondly, one of the things that they say, oh, because it's improving the productivity, and that's why we have to do this. Well, I'm not too sure about that. If it is improving the productivity and you're reducing the workforce, so are you passing the benefits to the customer? Is customer seeing the lower cost? I don't think so. I don't think the prices are dropping anytime, Jamie.
Yeah.
Inflation applies into enterprise as well, right? So that's not making sense to me as well. The third thing, I think what is really happening is basically a lot of the AI investment that companies are trying to do, they have to invest in the infrastructure, and that is what they're trying to fund through some people reduction cost. But it comes at a cost because Even Atlassian, right? I mean, they say that they're trying to cut 10% of their workforce, and they're trying to fund their AI investments. So that's what they're trying to do. But then it has its own toll. Now, Atlassian's CEO is claiming that okay, they are trying to take a humane approach here, and then like for example, there is a $1,000 technology step in once you return your corporate laptop. Healthcare plans will extend by 6 months, and the future paid parental leaves paid out in full, and things like that, and the bonuses have been brought forward, and all those kind of things. Well, that's appreciated. I think the impact could be a little bit blunt, which could be smoothed a little bit with those, but still, what I'm trying to understand is that okay, what really is happening? I think what really is also happening is that the new baselines are being set. One of the pressure on the companies is that okay, if they don't do the layoffs, if they don't attribute that to AI, they are being questioned. Are you using AI? Maybe not. Where is the benefit? Things like that, right? So that's one of the pressure that they have. And in that pressure, they are actually forced to basically do things. But that's not always panning out well. Look at the what is happening with Amazon. Amazon has been doing furiously some layoffs as recently as just previous month. And they are actually running into now issues like outages. There was a major outage that has been happening at Amazon, and recently the news came out this week that some of these outages are owing to a fault in their internal AI coding assistant. Amazon has now announced a temporary 90-day code safety reset across its engineering system. The VPs and the directors are instructed to make sure that the code is going through the review. Well, that's a basic, right? I mean, why was it not working? Maybe because things are being rushed. Maybe things are being just like for the sake of it. They are being told that, okay, yeah, like Andy Jassy also claimed that, okay, 50%, 60%, or almost all the code is being written by AI. But that's costing. For example, um, the incident they have had, for example, on March 2nd, an outage was attributed to Amazon's AI coding assistant Q partially, and it resulted in around 1.6 million website errors and nearly 120,000 lost orders globally. The other 3 days later, they had a separate production change deployed without proper documentation or approval, reported by several media, and which saw a sharp 99% drop in orders across North American marketplaces. Right. So I feel that, Jamie, all these signals are indicating that things are being rushed as usual. Things are being run by the greed rather than by the rationale. And I think some of these layoffs are totally unnecessary. And we saw that in an example of Block as well. Like 2 weeks ago, the guy, the co-founder, he's clearly saying that there was no financial imperative. We are doing it just to be ahead of the curve, right? It's not like that you're getting bankrupt or losing something. It's just that they are doing it just because stock market receive these news well. The stock goes higher when these things happen. So I think it's a crazy world, but I think these are all AI washing, as they call it.
Yeah, it's one of those like I'm going to do something for immediate benefit from a stock perspective to get a jump, but is that really worth it in the long run? Especially as you just cited, like things that are going to result in lost revenue because of over reliance on some AI assistance. Now, you could argue whether or not, hey, well, maybe Q is not as good as X, right? And by the way, I don't mean X as in XAI. I mean like take the next tool set, whatever it may be. But I think there is some truth in that. Is that you're sort of like I'll use an analogy. You're taking your kids to the playground, but then you're not watching them, and then they ultimately get hurt. It's kind of like what's happening here. They're laying off the individuals that were running things. They're letting AI assistants, but they haven't done a thorough enough job to understand not only capabilities, but the guardrails and things that need to be set up to ensure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you get this compounding scenario of laying off people and then AI going off the rails. I think this will be cyclical for those companies that may have jumped the gun and maybe just doing things just for the street, we'll probably end up, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, looking at doing a rehiring again because they kind of realized, all right, we were too early in this arms race as it relates to showing that we're being cost conscious and being on the leading edge of use of AI and agents. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, that there's not truth in this, in the sense that there are going to be jobs, and there are jobs that are being reduced, eliminated, or maybe not hiring new people, which I think is more the case, to be honest with you, and trying to do more with agents. That's inevitably not only here, but it's going to, I think, broaden and get more common. But I do think some of these early companies are just doing it potentially, I don't want to say for the wrong reasons, but just for the street.
Totally. And if you look at it, almost 35,000 layoffs have happened, which are being basically attributed to AI just in 2026. And as per the projection, with that rate that will continue, it will be anywhere between 270 to 300,000 job losses by the year end. It could be even more. Who knows, right? Yeah, I mean, the point is that doing it for the wrong reason sets a wrong precedent, wrong expectation, and then the AI gets blamed because there's a lot of backlash growing because of those reasons. So not very healthy for corporate. But hey, I've learned a lesson that corporate leaders are not necessarily the very far sighted, and they basically do things for metrics, not for the sense, I would say. Anyway.
You're telling me corporate leaders are only concerned about the bottom line revenue and charts? Oh my God, that's surprising. Yeah. So anyway, switching topics here. I know we covered this on previous episodes when it first, sort of hit the waves. And that's really the ongoing saga, if you will, between Anthropic and the U.S. government. And again, just to remind people that this is all about contractual wording, if you will, and what can or what can't be done with AI as it relates to the United States Defense Department and overall government use of AI models, whether or not it can be used in autonomous warfare use, as well as then surveillance of potentially U.S. citizens and anybody else for that matter. So with that backdrop, Anthropic obviously is not standing still and saying, okay, they're actually doing a lawsuit against the U.S. government. And specifically, it's because of the supply chain risk designation that the current administration applied and or put forth on top of Anthropic. So in that lawsuit, which was brought up, it really was revolving around the ability for free speech and AI ethics. Well, the quote unquote big tech companies have backed the concepts of what Anthropic has put in that lawsuit. Companies such as Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft are all saying the same thing. It really revolves around that free speech. So the lawsuit brief really argues that the government retaliation for Anthropic's refusal to enable this mass surveillance and autonomous weapons could potentially set a dangerous precedent for where corporate speech and the First Amendment protections gets blurred when, let's say, whoever is in office at that particular time doesn't really like the things or wants to do something that might be against the core morals of a publicly traded or private company, for that matter. So, so anyway, I look at it as the big brethren are all supporting each other in this fight with the government.
I think it's a welcome thing that the companies are finding some sort of because there has been a lot of fragmentation on the issues. Otherwise, generally, Anthropic finds itself on many issues isolated. But good that they have some support. The only holdout is Meta, which hasn't issued anything statement. Not surprisingly, but the good thing is that the big tech, because I think it's an important issue, right, for the society. The other thing is that I think for our corporate audience, what it can mean is that supply chain issue, the risk that the designation can mean actually that some of the companies may not be able to work with Anthropic, right? Because many companies have the contracts with the government, defense department, etc., and they won't be able to use it. So, there are a lot of companies who have to evaluate that business. So Anthropic has taken a beating on this, but as one of the news media published that okay, they lost the battle with Pentagon, but they won over America.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I think just on the similar line, another company that actually released great results, Jamie, Adobe, reported better than expected fiscal quarter earnings on Thursday, and great results. But then the biggest announcement was that Shantanu Narayan, he's a CEO, and he has been there for quite some time. I think the decades of his tenure there in Adobe, and he's been instrumental in its future. He has announced that he will be retiring. Now, he will be retiring, but he will be staying on as a chair. But they haven't even announced who will be the new CEO. They say that the search is happening now, which is surprising. Usually they announce, right? I don't know what was the rush in him announcing that he is going to retire, but they still haven't found the name. Now, one of the things is that Adobe is under quite a bit of pressure. So, there is a lot of pressure. Sometimes it is wise to quit at the peak, right?
Mhm.
Who knows? Who
Go
knows
out
what
on top.
will
Go out on top.
exactly. Yeah. And by the way, another stalwart of the industry, Yam LeCun, his AMI Labs has raised $1 billion. So he's happy because they got some good funding. They are basically focusing on world models. He's moved on from LLMs. Okay. One more thing, Jamie, Moldbook. We talked about that earlier a lot in the context of particularly the Cloudbot, etc. Moldbook was basically social media for the agents where they were chattering a lot. And that AI agent social network has now been bought by Meta. So, it was in the news along with the all Cloudbot and kind of things. And it has been Cloudbot, of course, that guy, Peter, he was actually hired by OpenAI. And the
Yeah.
Moldbook itself has been taken by Meta.
Yeah, I find it very, I don't know if I call it interesting, but it's more or less like, all right, they found their home. So, again, as you just mentioned, OpenClaw, which used to be, went through a couple of different namings, but, he went to OpenAI, and to me, Moltbook makes a perfect sense to go to, Meta, quote unquote, Facebook. Whether or not I agree with, that's where it should land, but it makes sense that they would want to purchase that based upon its social ability for agents to talk. I think the important thing about all this is we could probably just have a whole episode just talking about OpenClaw and Notebook, especially like on OpenClaw and the safety related to it. What I think the biggest thing is its impact on the industry in such a short period of time, and where people are maybe this is not the best set of code as it relates to, as I said, alignment and safety and all those things. But it certainly is a pivot point on how we think about what the possibility is for not only those agents that can do things on our behalf, but also how we can get to a point where those agents communicate with each other. So I think it's an important inflection, and so much so. CEO of NVIDIA recently came out and said, like, what's been the most important discovery or implementation over the last year, and he kind of pointed to the notion of OpenClaw because of, again, it's not about that particular thing, but how it changes our perception of the way agents can act and work. Anyway, so speaking of OpenClaw and all those things. So Perplexity actually introduces a new concept called personal computer. It's essentially a 24/7 agent that lives on spare Macs and acts as your digital proxy with, it has deep access into the things that you have, your files, your apps, the various different workflows. And it's positioned as a more secure and open personal tool to run agents on. Go back to what we just said about OpenClaw. So it's really pitched as a more secure cloud-based system, much in the way as OpenClaw. So again, it does pretty much the same things. It runs continuously. It's got full access to all your stuff, can be controlled remotely as well. And the things that it's a little bit more control or secured based upon, it provides an audit trail. It's got reversible actions. It's got a kill switch. So again, this is all things that point to hopefully more secure environment. Now, thing is, no one can really get to it yet. It's on wait list. So, and there's no launch date yet announced, but first chance I get a chance to take a look at it, certainly we will. And I'm already starting to tinker with OpenClaw, so that might be another episode to do as well.
Okay, perfect. In the other news, Jamie, Meta has delayed rollout of new AI models. So, Meta is famous for this llama models, but, they're actually pivoting. They're moving to the different line of models now. Ever since Alex Wong has joined from Scale AI, they are heading towards different line of models because llama models started like plateauing there. And they're working on fruit-themed models named Avocado and Mango. This is a new lab that they set up within Meta. It's called TBD Labs, to be determined. And looks like that is what it is in that TBD status. For now, we don't know when those models will come out. The models that they were developing, Avocado, seems like it was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as, let's say, the latest model that we have in the market, like Gemini 3.0 and the other cutting edge model that we have. It wasn't really as good, and that's what is prompting them to delay things. So Meta has been into some problems related to, let's say, the models development, AI. There has been a lot of attrition, etc. So, but that's where it is right now. And let's talk about Netflix. Netflix has been in the news, of course, for the Warner Brothers deal that actually fell through. But Netflix has also been taking some leads in using AI. And one of the things that they've done is they've actually acquired Interpositive, an AI filmmaking technology company, which is founded by Ben Affleck. And the entire team will join Netflix as part of this acquisition. It's basically the company that Ben has founded to experiment, to try, the new technologies, etc. But then also compensate the artists and other, right? So it's basically AI for the industry, by the industry kind of business model. So we'll see, but it clearly means that Netflix has been very interested, and they will be doing a lot of content generation using the AI, hopefully.
Yep. So speaking of content generation, OpenAI with Sora actually just announced, I believe it was just yesterday. By the way, today is March 13th. So on Thursday, the 12th, OpenAI announced a new set of APIs for Sora 2. And these will actually do a couple of different things. One, the ability to have custom characters and objects through the API, being able to do exports in different aspect ratios, whether it's 16:9 or 9:16, the ability to create clips up to 20 seconds as well, plus the ability to do extensions or extend scenes to do video continuation. The other thing too is also the ability to have batch jobs for the video generation, which is key for those, let's call it, those organizations or those companies that might be in the marketing genre or ad creation. This is really good because then they'll be able to like stitch things together and build ecosystems that could actually construct and deliver different quote unquote video content. So being able to do that not only through an API, but being able to then batch jobs for automatic creation is super important in that space. So, All right, let's talk about some launches. This one's an almost launch, so I was trying to figure out whether or not to put this in the launch section, but this is where it ended up. Microsoft launched or almost launched a new tool called Copilot Cowork, not to be confused with Anthropic Cowork, although there are some nuanced similarities, and I'll cover that one first. Is that Microsoft, as they announced this, it really was focused in on multi-model capabilities. So the thing that's actually powering this in the background, or powering Copilot, if you've looked at it lately, is not only OpenAI, but Anthropic models as well. So overall, this is a new capability that is really focused on taking a knowledge worker, if you will, beyond just a prompt based and getting a response, but really towards a multi-step agent based execution and related workflows. So there was also a couple of ancillary things in terms of new capabilities that were also announced around Security Copilot and Microsoft Foundry. But what this really represents is how Copilot is really being positioned as a system that could really complete complex work tasks and doing that in a simple manner. So from a business perspective, what this really does is that it opens up the potential for large productivity gains. So the idea is that I could use Cowork to run typical tasks. Now, I'll give you an example because I started using Cowork just yesterday. So one of the things that I do every morning, I'm sure everyone else does as well, I look at my inbox and I kind of figure out what is my things that are addressed to me, right? But I have, and this is a real life example, in my inbox this morning, I had 12 different emails where I was on the to line. Had a bunch of others where I was just, copied on it. But I pointed Cowork at my inbox, again, secured, so it's not doing anything outside of that realm. But I told it, go look at my inbox, go look at the things where I'm on the to line, determine out of those 12 emails what is most important. Like, is there something that, even though I'm on the to line, there's really nothing for me. So it needs to determine what is something that I would personally have to respond to. And here's the important part. I told it to draft the responses. But again, we always say, do not use AI without proofreading it first. Cowork could have sent that email out directly for me. I'm not there yet personally where I want it just answering things blindly for me. So it put it in my draft inbox and is ready for me to actually go look and take action on. But that's an example of Cowork. And here's the real part. It didn't just look at an email and come up with a response. It actually looked at the other artifacts, other emails that I sent or was on. It looked at other chats or other meetings that I was in with those potential customers. So that's the whole notion of Cowork, where it could actually bring in, I'm going to call it reduce friction across all the different mediums that I have as a knowledge worker and being able to deliver something. Now, again, my example there was email. I theoretically could have created something like that if I stitched together some other components. But the thing is, this is a Copilot agent that lives inside of Copilot, and it's called Cowork, and it does that for me. So it, like I said before, it reduces the amount of friction for me as a knowledge worker or a professional to actually do. So it reduces all those different handoff, quote unquote, things that I would have had to done, or maybe I had to go out to somebody, get some information, or look at my own things, whether it's, Outlook, Teams, Excel, different files. It did all that for me. And the other thing that is super important that was, announced as part of this is really the enterprise grade and trust, or the enterprise grade trust and compliance that is around this. So it adheres to like my security, my identity, the things that are going to be allowable or not allowable based upon the compliance boundaries that have been set up inside of Microsoft. So it respects all of those different permissions, the things that I could do as far as actions and auditable actions as well. And ultimately that, helps to create an execution of these agents that are supported and, marked quote unquote safe within an organization. So pretty excited about Cowork. We'll see where this goes. By the way, when I first started, I'm like, all right, is this like a rebranding of Anthropic Cowork or Claude Cowork? The answer there is no. It's different, but there is some underlying use or technology that is certainly shared between Anthropic and Microsoft.
Yeah, I would say that this Cowork has been actually a very exciting announcement, because I found lots of corporate audiences very interested in trying this out. You could use this as basically it's an expanded Copilot that you can use. And since there has been a lot of enthusiasm about the Cowork in the cloud world as well, that's why there was a lot of inquiries about it. One of the things is that the difference between Cloud Cowork and Copilot Cowork is Copilot Cowork works in the cloud, and the Cloud Cowork works on your local machines. So that's one of the key thing, right? I mean, this one operates, Copilot Cowork operates within M365 ecosystem, so it's very handy for all the enterprise and corporate users. It can work within their entire context.
Very true.
Okay, let's see, Jamie. The one more thing that we want to talk about, we generally discuss some of the use cases that how the AI is being used in the world, and one of the use cases, can AI be used to do some lot of like triaging in the medical industry, which is one of the big problem, honestly, right? It's one of the big challenge when you go to the urgent care or emergency. um, that triaging is a very stressed function, because whoever you don't send in is going to be mad there, and you don't want to make wrong decisions. False positives are inefficiency, and false negatives is a liability. So now the question is, can AI make better decision? um, well, it doesn't look like, not yet, because there was a research that came out, which is what they found was that researchers tested different medical scenarios with the chatbot. And in this case, they used the ChatGPT Health, which is a specific product from the OpenAI for the healthcare. In more than half of the cases in which doctors would send patients to the emergency, the chatbot said it was okay to delay care. Now, it's not because it understood better. Some of those emergencies were clearly requiring life threatening and urgent addressal. That included a patient with a life threatening diabetes complication, like it's called diabetic ketoacidosis, and the patient was going into the respiratory failure. And if it was left untreated, it would have led to death. So, the AI is still not yet there where it can do all this triaging. A lot of the scenarios actually require human observation. So, it just again proves, while this is a great use case where AI can be used, but it should not be used in just in isolation. It should be looped in with a human, and together they can actually solve the inefficiency issue, but also make sure that it remains effective.
Yeah, no, it's an important distinction in the ways that we rely on these models for not only health but diagnostics. So it's important that things are correct and things are
The
done.
question is, Jimmy, that if you go to, let's say, you happen to go to hospital, there is a voice-powered device which asks you all the question, and it decides, now, Jamie, sorry, you don't need our.
Yeah, you're good. You're fine. You don't need that limb.
Exactly. What will happen is the next thing will be Jamie will break that device and
Yeah,
the problem solved. Because I don't think humans are going to take it kindly if the device decides what to do next.
yeah, no, definitely not.
Not particularly when you are in pain and you have come to emergency thinking that's emergency. So it's going to be tricky.
Yeah,
Okay. And seems like this is a wrap of the week.
yeah. Again, a lot of different quick topics here, and never a dull moment. That's for sure.
For sure. We'll come back next week with some more stuff. Talk
Thanks,
soon.
everybody. See ya.
Bye, Jimmy.